You're just commenting on our how early everyone is, which is lovely. It's always nice to see everyone logging in just a couple minutes before we get started. So thank you for your time and sharing it with us today. We'll just be a couple more minutes. We're going to give a few more moments for other schools to join in. I know we're taking this over the lunch break, so it might be coming in and out. So bear with us and hang tight. We'll help get that set up.
So I gotta mute.
It's 7 o'clock.
Okay. There we go.
Hello, everyone. We're seeing lots of waving hands. This is awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. I know this is happening often across your lunch break, really. So we're so grateful that you're giving up some of your lunch break to spend with us and amazing speakers to talk about microlending, microfinancing, and all the amazing projects that you're working on right now and developing them a little bit further with some extra special help. So we're about to get started. I know there's a couple schools that might be popping in as we go or popping out as we leave through the lunch break. So if you have to leave, I'll just make a note now that if you can mute your site, which is kind of standard when anybody else is talking, that way we're not getting any feedback or weird noises, that would be amazing. And if you have to leave, if you can shut off your video and just exit quietly, that would be awesome as well. So thank you so much for your time. My name here is Lindsay Rankin at the Center for Global Education. I am joined with our Director of Programming, Sarah Flynn, and a special guest speaker from Service Credit Union, Debbie Nadeau, who is a branch manager here in Edmonton. So thank you all for joining, and I would like to pass it over to our friends at Green Learning for a formal introduction and launch of today's event.
Awesome. Thanks, Lindsay. Can everyone hear me okay? Awesome. Okay, so my name's Mary McGrath. I'm the Executive Director at Green Learning, and these are my colleagues.
I'm Jamila Chiari. I'm the Communications Manager.
I'm Marcus Jinder. I'm the Program Manager.
And so we are also very, very excited to have all of you here today. This is our third time doing the Lending a Hand Challenge, which is so awesome. And we are particularly excited to have these amazing guest speakers here and to have this opportunity for youth in Alberta to learn more about microfinance and microlending, cooperative banking, and entrepreneurship. And to ask questions of experts and to also maybe have the experts ask them questions too, which is really great. I know I'm always filled with lots of questions because the work that the students are doing is so incredible and it's very inspiring too. So very, very much appreciate having the teachers here and all of you guys making the time over the Alberta lunch hour, and I look forward to the discussion we're going to have today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Everybody, if we can all unmute our sites, we'll give a big round of applause to our partners in crime, Green Learning. Woo-hoo! I extend that round of applause to you guys as well, because we're going to introduce our schools right now so we can get a dialogue built between our guest speakers and our students who are doing the hard work and combining the project all together and sourcing out young entrepreneurs that they would like to send their fundraising opportunities to for microfinancing. So I'll go through the list of schools that we have in the room right now. We will have a couple others who will join us as the lunch hour kind of progresses, and as questions come up, please feel free to use the technology. There is a raise a hand button which will pop up and we can pause the kind of presentation and start asking questions. But we do have that built into the very end of this session too. So we've got Edith Rogers, junior high. You guys want to unmute, you can definitely say hi, give a wave. Yay, okay. Maybe, oh, there we go. Hello, Edith Rogers. Hello, thank you for joining us today. We also have St. Andrews High Prairie, St. Andrews High School in High Prairie. We're just working on some technical situation with them with screen time, but I know that they're here and they'll be joining us with their full group here shortly. We also have McKernan School. Hello, McKernan. Do you want to give us a wave and unmute if you can?
Yeah, here we go.
Oh no! Feedback! That's all right. We will work this thread through as well. Thank you guys for joining us at McKernan. I'm just scrolling through our list. We also have Warren Lake at Robert Thirsk. Warren, are you there? I see a very green classroom. I'm seeing some waves.
Yeah, we're going to get bombarded in about 15 minutes with kids, so.
Awesome. The more the merrier. I love the space that you guys are in, and we're so looking forward to connecting and sharing our experiences today. So without further ado, Mary, is it okay if I share my screen with the traditional kind of spread of slides? Thumbs up, we're good? Okay, give me 1 second, everyone. I'm just gonna snag my screen in just a second. And we'll get into our formal introductions of all of our guest speakers here in just a second. Some great schools who are so dedicated to this experience, and we're so excited to share today. Can everybody see my screen okay? Starting to load. Bear with me. All right. All right, so welcome everyone. Thank you for joining our Lending a Hand 2018 challenge. We encourage you to use social media and tweet us with the hashtag Lending a Hand, just as you see it. So if questions start to arise while we're going through this dialogue, please share them through social media. You can tweet them directly at CG Education, which is our handle. And Mary, can you share the Green Learning handle for Twitter as well?
Yeah, sure. The Green Learning handle for Twitter is @GreenLearning.
Love it. Just as it sounds, just as it is. No ifs, ands, or buts. At Green Learning or at CG Education with hashtag lending a hand for us to find your tweets. So today we're going to be engaging youth, that's you, in microfinance to build sustainable and resilient communities, because it's about those connections and those partnerships and how we can give each other a hand up and not necessarily a hand out. So without further ado, let's get into it. This is not possible without the sponsors of Green Learning, who has begun this entire project and this program. Our friends at Service Credit Union, who is also kind of part of the challenge, which we'll highlight a little bit. Our friends at Taking It Global, who help create online platforms and tools that we can all use together. And us on the Center for Global Education to provide and facilitate discussions through video conferencing. So today we're going to go over the project once again, just a short, quick recap of what we're doing, some timelines that you need to consider as we go through, and then we get to engage in some amazing conversations with guest speakers. We have Kennedy Yaboa, who is a microfinance expert who is joining us live from Ghana. It is 7 p.m. where he is, and we are so grateful that he has stayed extra late on his workday so that he could connect with all of us. So please, when it's his chance, give him a warm welcome with a round of applause. We have Aisling Noah, who is a funding platform expert from Small Fund Change, and she's joining us here today, so we'll get to hear from her and her experiences, as well as Debbie Nadeau, who is our credit union expert here in Edmonton, Alberta. And there's always room for Q&A, so we'll engage in that as we go through, and use Twitter, of course, hashtag lending a hand. Mary, did you want to go through the project overview for everyone and the goals of lending a hand?
Yes, that would be awesome. So just a recap for everyone. I know you guys are deep into this, and so this is probably old news, but I just wanted to go through again how what we see as the goals, and perhaps you guys have come up with some other goals that we could even add to this. So we felt like the important goals for this initiative are to help youth understand lending, and more specifically microlending, and then how that fits into the entire landscape of all these new financial models like social finance and older financial models which are seeing a resurgence like cooperative banking models, and what the benefits of those are. Also to learn how to understand the calculations that take place in determining simple and compound interest rates and the role of interest in lending. And another goal would be to apply the concept of the triple bottom line in the selection of borrowers. So how does that make sense when choosing a borrower? We're really excited about the idea of putting principles of microlending into practice by actually raising funds and then lending them to an entrepreneur that you get to choose as a lender. And then finally, through the whole thing, we hope that we're developing critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, our entrepreneurship skills, which is really important, and the ability to network and to be part of a team. And so I just wanted to explain again about this year's Lending a Hand Challenge. We're so excited to have Service on board as a partner again this year. And, you know, Lending a Hand is a really exciting opportunity to take skills in math and geography and world issues and to apply them to a real life situation and to make a difference in the lives of people around the world. And so this year, I hope that as many classes as possible are going to be looking at how they might raise some funds and then lend those to real entrepreneurs around the world. And we're so excited that Service is going to be once again matching the funds that you raise up to $500 per school, which is amazing. So a huge thank you to Service, because they're going to help you double or triple your impact on the borrowers that so with the Lending a Hand Challenge, you get to look at different platforms and opportunities and choose the platform that makes sense to you, and then engage in a process of actually choosing the borrower and then applying the principles that you've learned just like a credit union would. So you're going to be making your loan, and the act of making your loan is definitely going to be changing the lives of entrepreneurs that you have decided to work with. And then we are really hoping that you can share with us how you've decided to choose your borrower, how you've document the process of making that selection, document the process of raising the funds and lending those funds, and then tell us about it in the form that makes sense to you. We've suggested a video or a comic book, whatever your class and your team feels like they have the skills for and interest for. And we want to be able to then share that video with other classes to help engage them in this project. And Service, again, has stepped up to the plate, and they are going to be offering a pizza party for every single class that shares with Green Learning and the Center for Global Education what they've done and how they've participated in the Lending a Hand Challenge this year. So super excited about our continued partnerships with Center for Global Education and Service and this extra support this year, and really excited to have more classes involved this year than we've ever seen before. So here's a little timeline. We're going to be having a final wrap-up webinar in April on the 19th. So we'd love to get those videos and comic books or however you've documented your process before then. And then we're going to have an actual physical event in Alberta, which will be awesome to be able to see people face to face. And that will be in May. So this is the first slide for one of our guest speakers. So maybe what I'll do is I'll turn it back over to you, Lindsay, and we'll just recap the rest of what's going to happen, and then we can turn it over to our speakers to share with us some of their experiences in microfinance and lending and how credit unions work, and then we'll have our conversations and hopefully lots of questions going back and forth.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I'm so blown away with the number of schools that we've had registered and the engagement that you guys are already kind of embarking on. And we have such a short timeline. I want to get right to it. We have a very special guest, Kennedy Yeboah, who's joining us live from Ghana. And I want to hear from him so that we can start engaging in that conversation and that dialogue of learning together and knowing how microfinancing is really making impact and meaningful change on a global scale. So, Kennedy, are you with us? Are you live? Can you hear us?
Yes, Lindsay, good evening from Ghana.
Fantastic.
How are you, everybody? Hi, everybody.
Hi, Kennedy.
Hi.
There it is.
Today happens to be the 61st anniversary of Ghana. So today is Independence Day. So there's no work in the country, and I have to drive back to the office to be able to. Yeah.
We are so fortunate that you are willing to give up your Independence Day to share it with us and these amazing learners ahead of you. So thank you so much, Kennedy, for sharing your time and your evening with us.
You're welcome.
Should we get right into the presentation then for you?
Yes, that's fine.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to start sharing my screen.
All right. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And I'm most grateful always for being part of Green Learning and sharing experience with people who are picking up in experience of microfinancing. Microfinancing in Ghana is a big deal because almost most financial institutions, our operations are within this limit, and the people that we serve, they are all micro, and these are what we do as Ghana credit unions mostly. We have few people who have graduated out of microfinancing, but most of our activities is dealing with microcredit and people who can afford to take small loans. And this is making impact and is also improving lives. And this is what we want to share this afternoon with everybody, right? So microfinancing, we are looking at how we can use small credits to reach the lower level income earners, and how they can also use the small amount that they receive from the credit union to improve their life. So we are looking at what are creating avenues for small credits or small businesses to be able to attract smaller loans in order to improve their life through loans and through savings. We in Ghana, a lot of people have limited resources in terms of getting access to credit. And so what we do often is, currently we have different microfinancing products. And as we move on, I would like to share with you how people start very small, but with the help of small credit, they are able to grow their businesses, and later they feel safe for being part of a credit union, or they feel appreciative for the small loan that the credit union gave to them. So credit union allow people to safely take reasonable small business loan in a manner that is consistent with ethical lending. Sometimes the amount that people approach you that they want as loan, you might think it will not make any impact, but to them it is a big deal. And so we don't despise any small amount at all. Now we want to look at a case study of two of our customers who went through the microfinancing processes. Currently they are doing doing very well, but they started small, and we have smaller customers who operation are a bit smaller than them. But Ramsia here, we do two main things, as we have mentioned, micro savings and micro loans. Micro savings, we are looking at creating avenues, creating the platform for people to save the smallest amount that they can get. So we send people on the field to take any small amount that they want to save, and we accumulate it into monthly savings for them. And then through that, we give them micro loan as well to improve their businesses. And we want to look at these two customers. The first person is Mercy Adom, who started with us for, she has been in business with us for about 4 years. Her initial contribution at the credit union was 5 cedis per day. Let's say 5 cedis is like $1 a day. So the lady you see in the picture is our mobile customer. She went, they go around to take money from our mobile customers or the micro customers, so that Mercy was saving $1 a day. And then the initial capital Mercy started with was $3,000, which is about less than $700. And with engagement with the credit union and going through her finances, we decided to use her as a case study and see, by giving smaller loans, how can a business grow. So Mercy started her first loan, and she took a loan of 20,000, and currently Mercy is able to expand her business, contributing 20 cedis a day, getting to about $5, graduating from $1 a day to about $5 a day. And her working capital has increased to 50,000 cedis, which is about 11,000 or about $10,000. She started with less than $700, and currently she's employing additional hands because the business has grown and she needs a lot of hands to be able to meet even the customer demands. She has plans to acquire her own stock by importing it herself. And because of this improvement, Mercy currently is building her own residency. Previously, she used the increment from the micro credit that she got. By improving her business, she was able to acquire a land. And when you buy land in Ghana to build your own house, it's a big deal. So Mercy now currently is building, and it's a plus for a business like that starting small and getting to this level. And the next person we want to look at is Frederick. Frederick is a carpenter, and Frederick also started with us 3 years ago, and he also was doing 10 cedis, like $2 a day. He started with 3,000 cedis as capital. Fred has been with us for 3 years, and after 3 years, before he could expand his business, he was doing, he produced doors and sell. And then the average doors he could produce was between 80 and 100. But with the credit union and access to smaller or microfinance with credit, he's able to buy cutting machine for his business, which is improving efficiency and improving the timeline for him to complete one door. Currently, he's producing between 500 to 1,000 doors a month, and he has employed additional hands. He's contributing 50 cedis a day, which is about $10 a day. And access to credit has been increased to 20,000. Currently, he's accessing more and now has hands to help him. He has also acquired his land, trying to build a decent place for himself. And he also planning of acquiring additional machines to be able to expand the business. And so looking at these two customers, you could see that no matter how small that you start with a good approach and good practice, management practices, you are able to expand, and the impact is glaring. Everybody, when you go to Frederick, for example, you could see how big his shop has grown, and now people go to him to take bulk stock. And in terms of doors, people come to him to buy as a wholesale and then go and sell in retail. But microfinancing currently has some challenges. Let's move on. It has some challenges because we operate in peak season, and the peak season, like getting to Easter, getting to Christmas, people want to do more. Sometimes they want to stock more to meet the Christmas season, and because of that, people rush in for loans, and we are constrained by how much we can give to individuals. And when it gets to that side, we want to rotate. If you have benefited before, you need to give way to other people to benefit. And all these things, if we are able to meet all the demand, then I know we'll be making more impact than we are making now, because a lot of people will be benefiting from microcredit. And so if you are looking at helping people in this angle, it's a big project, which I think is a plus, and you might want to look at any avenue that you can get to fund people's activity, because really people need these funds to be able to survive. And sometimes the impact the credit is making is that somebody will approach it and they will tell you, had it not been this small loan that I got, I wouldn't be able to finance my kids' school. I wouldn't be able to finance my home, my rent. And these are real stories. The amount seems very small, but it's making the real impact. But the challenge is that we are not even meeting the demand as at now. Let's move on. Yeah. So I will want to end because we have another slide coming up. But micro lending has been making a lot of impacts. and this is what we try to share. I would like to take a question as we get there and to be able to share more with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kennedy. Everybody, please feel free to unmute. We'll give them a round of applause. Thank you. Those are two amazing cases of individuals, young entrepreneurs who are, benefiting from microlending and microfinancing. And there's so many cases very similar all around the world that you guys are getting to choose and help out. So I'm so grateful to have you speak to it. And now I'd like to introduce Aisling. Are you there? Oh, you're muted. We'll just have to get you unmuted first. Hello?
How about now?
Hi.
Can you hear me now? Hi, how are you?
Wonderful. I'm going to open up our PowerPoint back to your screen or your slide, and
Sure.
we'll let you introduce yourself in the meantime.
Sure. Hi, everyone. It's really exciting to be here, and thank you to Kennedy for that presentation. That was really, really interesting, and I think it ties together a lot of what I can speak to about crowdfunding platforms. And so my name is Ashley Nolan. I'm the Executive Director of Small Change Fund. Thank you. I work at the Center for Social Innovation in Toronto, which is a co-shared working space of about 200 to 300 different entrepreneurs across Toronto who are working on nonprofits and companies here out of the same space, which is pretty exciting, which is why I've got my headphones on, because it's a really busy, noisy place. And so I'll speak a little bit about the different kinds of crowdfunding platforms, which you guys are going to learn about through the Lending a Hand Challenge, and some of the benefits of using these different platforms and why they work for entrepreneurs or change makers who are trying to raise funds for their business or for a project that they're starting. And so just at a really high level, a couple of the different kinds of crowdfunding platforms, and you're probably already aware of them. There's the one that we work on, which is Small Change Fund. So Small Change Fund, we're a charity, and we support change makers across Canada who have really amazing ideas to improve sustainability and resiliency in their communities, but don't have the funding to make it happen. And so we support these change makers through our crowdfunding platform, which operates all across Canada. So this is a kind of a platform that would be classified as a charitable giving platform. The other kinds of platforms that you tend to see are equity crowdfunding. So equity crowdfunding would be when a small business or a large business wants to acquire investors for their business. So if you've heard of something like Instacart, which is kind of like the Uber of grocery stores, where they are hiring shoppers to go in and buy groceries, and people can go online and choose their groceries. They're sort of connecting those two. Instacart used a crowdfunding equity platform to attract investors, so large-scale investors who would essentially buy or invest in a piece of their business. And so this tends to happen on a really big scale. We're starting to see a lot more of this. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry that's happening all over the world. We're going to be seeing a lot more of those kinds of platforms. We see a little bit of that happening on platforms like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, where people are starting businesses or trying to sell products, and we'll get into that a little bit. And the other kind of sort of on a high level platforms that we tend to see are lending platforms, and that's what you guys are learning about, which is really, really exciting. And so creating an opportunity to provide a loan, a microloan to an entrepreneur in another country where they can take your investment, invest it in their business, make money, give that back to you, and you can reinvest in another entrepreneur. So these are sort of the different buckets we see around crowdfunding, crowd equity, and crowd lending. There's a lot of benefits to operating your business or your project within a crowdfunding space. The most obvious one is access to capital. So financing, it can be really challenging to find the right kind of financing or the right kind of financing partners for the work that you're doing. And so crowdfunding creates an opportunity for lots of different people to come together and aggregate small amounts of money towards one project. And so access to capital for sure is the number one reason that people use crowdfunding platforms. Like I said, aggregating small amounts of money towards one project also mitigates risk. So the second big benefit to using crowdfunding platforms is risk mitigation. If you have one person investing $1,000 in your business and your business fails, that person is out $1,000. But if you have 1,000 people investing $1 each in your business, all of that risk is spread across all of those different investors. And so it creates more security from a lender or from someone donating money to a project where they feel like, you know, there's an opportunity to do a lot of good, but there isn't necessarily a massive risk that they have to take on in doing that. The other big piece of it is marketing. So when you're creating a business, it's all about marketing, or if you're creating a change project around climate change, it's about awareness and education. If you're starting a really big business, it might be about PR. And so that same concept around having a lot of people understand your business and get excited about it can be really expensive. And so crowdfunding creates an opportunity to do that in a way that's organic to using the platform. You can put your project up there. It's seen by a whole network of people who are sharing it with their network, and if it gets a lot of buzz, you might even get, you know, to be on the radio or on TV or in a magazine. And so it creates this opportunity for marketing and awareness that is usually a big cost in starting a business. Some of the other benefits around starting your project or business through crowdfunding is that you can use this as an opportunity to create a proof of concept. So you can test an idea. You can start with a really small project where you think you know what's going to happen, you have a hypothesis around how it's going to work, but you want to test it to make sure that it's going to be something that you can scale up. And so a lot of people will raise funds through an awareness or marketing through crowdfunding so that they can have a lot of buy-in if their project or their business, you know, turns out to be really successful. They have a whole audience that they can tap into with that proof of concept to scale their work to another level. And one of the last big areas around the benefits of using crowdfunding platforms or crowd equity platforms or lending platforms is that it's a lot easier in a lot of ways than other traditional applications for financing. And so it's amazing to see programs like Kennedy's that are delivering microfinancing at that scale. They don't exist everywhere. And so it's really challenging for people to access that kind of financing through a bank if you don't have credit, or you don't have investors that you can talk to, or you don't have a huge network. It's hard to find that access. And a lot of grant applications or financing applications are really in-depth, and not everybody has the expertise to carry those out. Crowdfunding is more about storytelling. It's about what it is that you're trying to do, and it creates more of more momentum around bringing in investors into that work. So it tends to be a little bit easier to communicate what it is you're doing, and again, spreading that risk out across a number of investors makes people feel really confident in the work that you're doing. And so there is that power of the crowd to provide support. And just to touch on the last point here, the crossing borders and geography. So this is something exciting that you guys are going to be digging into. When you bring microfinance or microcredit together with technology, you have opportunities to not only transcend those barriers that people might have, like creating those applications or access to microfinance, but you can also transcend boundaries, geographic boundaries, whether that's outside of your community or outside of your country. And so through platforms like Lending Loop or Kiva, you can actually get to know the entrepreneurs that you're investing in, read their stories, and transcend those boundaries in a way that we weren't able to do, 10 or 15 years ago. And so we're going to start to see a lot more opportunities around that. I can speak a lot more to how these platforms work and the benefits and challenges in using them. I'll leave it there for now, and if we've got questions, I'm happy to come back. But I'll pass it back to Lindsay. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Big round of applause. You'll get the waterfall effect of applause, really, as everybody starts to unmute and then remute for everyone to share in a space. And thank you so much for explaining the benefits of crowdfunding. I didn't realize the sense of security that you can build virtually or through these networks and platforms that already exist. And I couldn't agree more that it really comes down to a story. And these spaces share stories so beautifully and so well in a way that we can all kind of relate to, and then invest and reinvest and carry that kind of pay it forward like mentality. So thank you so much, and hold on to your questions, guys. We're getting really close to sharing time. But right now we have Debbie Nadeau here in Edmonton, and she's going to share a very special story that's near and dear to her heart. So Debbie, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I haven't read this slide.
Sure,
so
no problem. No
okay.
rush.
That's okay. What I want to do is I want to share with you guys a personal story of a lady that I met in a village in Ghana when I was over there with the Canadian Cooperatives Association. And I met Kennedy in Ghana through CCA because we go over there and we go to help our credit union partners overseas to keep on moving forward with their credit unions. Do we have Cecilia's slide?
I think we do.
So
There she is.
this is a lady named Cecilia that I met in 2014. And this lady is really special for a number of reasons. One of the biggest things, and I want, like, there's a bunch of kids from all over Alberta sitting here, but I want you to think about your parents having to decide if you have two brothers and a sister. I want you to think about a parent having to decide which child is going to stay in school, because that is reality in a lot of countries that have high rates of poverty. So this is Cecilia. Cecilia has a son and she has two daughters. In Ghana and in many of these poverty-stricken places, the son, if you can afford to send one child to school, it is going to be the son.
Wow.
And the daughters are not going to go to school. So Cecilia started off a fish selling business in the village market. And she had, basically what happened was she was driving, she had a driver drive her 7 hours to a town, to a larger city where she would buy fish. She would bring the fish back and she would sell it the next day in the market. And then she would turn around and she would drive back and go back and forth. This was her daily routine. One day driving to get the fish, one day driving, or one day selling in the village market. I get really passionate about this story.
Oh my goodness, 14 hours, guys. Could you imagine 14 hours?
So anyhow, Madame Cecilia went to her village credit union and she got a loan for a freezer. Now, we all know, like, we have freezers and this is great, but this freezer changed her life. So basically, what happened, it was a very small freezer, and I wish I had the pictures because they're tiny, tiny, tiny. But this freezer that she borrowed money from the credit union, it took her 18 months to pay back, and she only had to go buy fish every 2 days. So now she had extra time to sell her fish in the market, and it was expanding her business. So Madame Cecilia now is starting to make enough money that maybe her girls are going to stay in school. And that was so important to her. So when she finished paying off the freezer loan, the first freezer loan of the credit union, she asked them for a second freezer loan. Another 18 months, but now she didn't have to go buy fish in a major city and it would have been 3 days. She could sell in market for 3 days the amount of fish that she was able to hold in those freezers. Again, 18 months passes by, and now she's looking at it and going, yeah, my girls are staying in school. So she gets another freezer loan from the credit union, and now she only has to go there once a week. 1 day a week, she drives up, she goes up, she gets all the fish, she comes back down, and what happens in this market is they slaughter animals in the morning. And what happens is they sell the meat over the course of the day, and any meat that is left over, they can't use again the next day because it's 40 degrees above and there's no place to put it. So Madame Cecilia now has an extra freezer that she rents to the other villagers in the marketplace. And this is making her more money as well. So when I met Madame Cecilia, one of her son was already going to post-secondary education, and her daughter, her first daughter, they had enough money to send her to university. Now that is microfinance. That is such a small loans, but you are lending a hand and you are literally picking these people up out of poverty. And the credit union helped her do this. It was just fantastic. I was telling Lindsay earlier, I will never forget the time I spent with this lady, because it was the most powerful thing to find out what the credit union was doing for her and how she literally was able to put her children through school because of it.
So the legacy that it was creating for each of her children to be able to stay in school. Yep. It's just such an inspiring story. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Oh, I've got goosebumps. I'm sorry. Thank you, Debbie, so much. Round of applause for Debbie. Make sure that we have made it through our slide presentation, and we have. So a big thank you to all of our guest speakers who have volunteered their time to share with us. And now it's time to open up the floor to some questions. And we want to hear from you. You have three brilliant minds here who have shared amazing stories and amazing opportunities that you can start to use as tools in your toolbox of microlending and microfinancing. So I'm not sure if anybody has a question off the bat, but I'd like to start in order on my list. I have Edith Rogers, Junior High, at the top of my list. Edith Rogers, do you guys have a question for any one of our amazing speakers today? You're still muted, so I'm not sure if there's someone close to the microphone that can do it. Otherwise, I can definitely. Oh, I see a hand.
No, I was waiting.
Hi, does anybody have a question for our guest speakers today?
They're a little shy.
They're a little shy. Okay, you know what? We'll come back to you, Edith Rogers. There's no stress. Talk amongst yourselves, mute your side of the mic, and maybe be inspired by another question that comes around. Let's go down to McKernan. McKernan, do you guys have a question for our guest speakers? Oh, they have written their question, so I'll read it on their behalf. So McKernan School says, the payback rate is 98%. What factors make the payback rate so high? Sorry, they're scared of feedback, so that's why they're using the chat window. Anonymously. No, great question, and of course, if you guys need to use the chat window, feel free to log your questions in there too. So I'm not sure who might be best to answer that question.
Kennedy, I'd like you to answer the question because, excuse me, your delinquency rate is very, very low at Ramsayre as well. And what makes the people who you are giving microcredit to, what compels them to pay it back at such a wonderful rate?
Yeah, thank you. You see, appraiser is the first thing. Before you give a loan, you need to find out the background of the borrower. And so we send people on the field trying to understand their business. And after establishing that what they want to use the money for is something worth paying back, then we grant the loan and then we put monitors on the field. So what makes them pay back is that we have mobile bankers, field supervisors who go around every day to collect the amount in bits. So if you are paying like $10 a month, we'll come to you to pay like 10 cents every day, pay 10 cents every day. And by the time the month is due, you have the cumulative amount that you need to pay your loan. And this is working very well.
Thank you for that explanation. We're just kind of back chatting on this side of the line, but if Dan at St. Andrews, do you have a question on your side? We had some technical difficulties before the event started, so it might not translate. We'll give him a couple of seconds to see if there's a response in the chat window. But in the meantime, Robert Thirsk, I know you guys have done microlending last semester and are making this kind of a habit and a pattern. Do you guys have any new questions or ideas or comments that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Yeah, I'll just quickly pick up. My 20s and 30s are going to work on this again. So we did the project last semester, and we managed to support 6 projects in 6 different countries. So we're got another group of 20 to 30 people that are working on it. But we're turning it into a legacy piece. I think Kennedy mentioned it probably the best, and that he said that they simply are having troubles meeting the demand. And a lot of that is because quite often these projects, or you do it once and then you kind of put it on the shelf and you move on to something else. So here it's something that they're going to build into part of the program so that it'll be year over year, every year. And the kids will be learning every year. And I mean, your presenters, I looked at the 3 and they basically said, all 3 of your presenters basically nailed it. And we don't have many questions because they explained it really well. They will probably have some a month from now, but so thank you. Yeah, so well done to the presenters, and we'll give it another shot this semester.
Wonderful. Maybe you could tell us a bit about the projects that you were engaged or that you chose with your students the last run through in the fall.
Well, the financing aside, we kind of the program here is based on kind of looking at natural science and stewardship efforts. So the kids tried to stay to projects that worked in sustainable agriculture. So they were looking to help people with getting their crops up and running. They were looking at a dairy project to help with one of the farms there. And then they were looking at some alternative energy projects. So there was a group that were looking to finish a project on getting rid of their wood burning stoves and going to a solar paneled stove for the community. So they were able to kind of look at sustainable projects that made people's lives better, but also fit the bill for kind of our stewardship model and making sure that the world's a little bit of a better place. And then they tried to spread their money by looking at projects that were, $25 or $40 from being complete. It allowed them to kind of spread their money a little bit further. And then we've already done a little bit of a celebration here because some of that money from last semester has already started to come back. So it means that the pot of money that we had last semester, some of that will already be back here, and then they're going to do a fundraising project for this semester. So it's great. It's like I say, as far as just the lessons it teaches and the legacy that you can leave behind and the lives that you can affect, it's a pretty sweet thing. So.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's so interesting to even hear that some of the money's coming back and you're going to get to reinvest it already.
Yay.
You've earned that pizza party.
Absolutely. I like the layers that you guys are engaging in, that it reflects your own model and your own school mandate, that you want to keep paying it forward and sharing what you know with new communities as well. High Prairie, St. Andrews, I think you guys have some technically sound equipment now. We're good to go. If you've got a question, the floor is yours. Oh, I see that it's unmuted, but I'm not hearing anything on your side, St. Andrews. I think we may have lost him. I think St. Andrews, best case scenario, send us your question in the chat window, and we would be happy to share it on your behalf. Yeah. Edith Rogers, now that you kind of heard some veterans in the microfinancing project, do you have any questions or comments? I'm fascinated by the amount of work that's already been done and the high turnaround in terms of that loan being paid back already. So Edith Rogers, do you guys have a question? Oh, I think I can unmute you, so just give me 1 second. Oh, maybe not. It's not letting me. You might have to have somebody come up to the front. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Hello, Edith Rogers. The floor is yours.
Gotta speak, Abdi. Gotta speak.
What is the maximum loan that you could give?
What is the maximum loan you can give? Kennedy, do you have an answer?
In terms of maximum for microcredit, we are doing like 3,000 cedis, which is a little about $600 for micro. Yes, for micro loan, and people take as low as like $100 and 300 cities, which is below $100. Yeah, but in terms of micro lending, we give up to 3,000. Recently, at our strategic meeting, we wanted to raise it to 5,000, which will be about $1,000. But now it is not a wholesale, but those who are graduating, and then we push them up a bit.
Kennedy, maybe you can tell everybody what the smallest microcredit loans you have. How small?
How small? The smallest loan we have given is 100 cities. 100 cities by in terms of dollar will be, let me see, 100 by 4.5, which is about $20. It's about $20.
Little as $20. Wow.
What do you think the average ask is from an entrepreneur?
Average asset of an entrepreneur, averagely our microcredit customers, it will be around $500. But if you want to bring it down, let's say average will be around $400 to $500. Yeah.
That's kind of bang for your buck as you're starting up your own business. At Small Change Fund, what kind of range of microloans or asks are people sourcing?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say the average amount that we see is probably around $3,500 to start a project, and so maybe $3,500 to $5,000. It's obviously varies depending on where you live and the kinds of projects you're running or the equipment that you need to buy. And so, yeah, I would say that's a bit the average that we see. I just wanted to say a comment though to Robert Thirst's school, that I think it's so fantastic that you are looking at reinvesting the money like year after year, class after class, because one of the big challenges for crowdfunding platforms is that people tend to make an investment as a lender, and then when the money comes back to them, they don't always reinvest it. And so I know that Kiva has come up with a new strategy on how they're using that money to reinvest, but it's really amazing to create a cycle where maybe the next class is taking that funding on, you're funding more projects or bigger projects. It's really amazing to think about that, because it is a big challenge with lending platforms. I think it's really cool that you guys are already ahead of the curve on that. And I had a question for Kennedy, if that's okay.
Yeah. And then we'll ask St. Andrew's question after.
I'm just wondering, Kennedy, do you think that a lot of the payback rates, like the reason somebody had a question about payback rates, do you think that one of the reasons that payback rates are so high is because there's a sense of community or trust? Do people feel like they sort of know each other, and there's also a sense of a certain sense of integrity and trust built into the microfinancing programs that you run?
Yes, thank you for that. Or part of it, yes, because in the community, everybody knows each other. And one way we also use to pick up on default customers is people don't like you coming to their workplace because they are owing you loan. And so when they see people coming to their place, they feel embarrassed. And because of that, they wouldn't want to get there. And secondly, loans that we are given in terms of credit, we don't use collateral, but we need a family member to sign as a witness for you. And so if this person is not paying the loan, you need to talk back to the person who signed as a witness. And because of the family kind of thing, people want to redeem their image. And it's part of the reason, yeah.
Kennedy? Our question from St. Andrew's High School is they're relatively new to the microlending experience, and they're curious to know if there's a short list of which microlending agencies they should be looking at. I know we mentioned a few of them, but I'd be open to anybody who wants to share some of their tried and true. And of course, Robert Thirst, if you want to share any of the sites that you've used, feel free. This is a collective community we're building here too with microlending.
are they doing? So Robert Thirst is doing Kiva.
Mr. Lake, did you guys use Kiva or Zadisha? I think those are two that we had mentioned. Debbie, do you have any others that you'd like to add?
No, I do Zadisha. So.
Zadisha, okay, yeah. Kennedy, Robert Thirst, go ahead.
Yeah, and we used, the kids decided to go with Kiva on our end, so.
Kiva, perfect, thank you. Any other suggestions? Kennedy, do you have any sites or agencies that we should be looking at?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question well. If you can.
Oh, I'm sorry. They're looking at agencies or online platforms or websites that they can look to that support microlending and microfinancing. Do you know of any that your customers themselves are on, or other ones that they might be interested in looking at?
Currently, I'm not sure. I need to find out.
No problem. I know Mary mentioned them early on in our kind of teacher training.
Maybe Mary has a few more resources here.
Yeah, so I'll throw out a couple. So Kiva is right now probably the world's largest online lending platform that connects credit unions across the world with prospective lenders. So people mainly in Canada and the United States, but also in other countries who want to lend to aspiring entrepreneurs. So Kiva is probably the largest online lending platform that connects borrowers and lenders. Another one is Zadisha, and Zadisha has taken a bit of a different approach. The woman who founded Zadisha used to work at Kiva, and she felt like some of the things needed to be changed, and so she built a new lending platform that improves, in her opinion, on what some of the challenges that Kiva faced. In Canada, there's a platform called Lending Loop, which is a peer-to-peer platform that connects borrowers in Canada and Canadian communities to lenders. It's pretty new, and so I'm not sure what opportunities are available there. So those are, I would say, Zadisha and Kiva, the two largest ones globally. There are a lot of organizations around the world that facilitate micro lending and microfinance that don't have these online lending platforms connecting individuals to borrowers. So the Grameen Bank in Bangladesh is probably the best example of a really historical example of using microfinance and microcredit to benefit borrowers and to help lift people out of poverty specifically. So those are the three that I would recommend off the top of my head. If you did a Google search, you might find others, but they're just emerging. But I also wanted to ask Kennedy a question about meeting the demand, because I do feel like there is a lot of interest in Canada, in the United States, and other countries to support borrowers. And Kiva and Zadisha are managing that fairly well. But I anticipate that there will be more and more lending platforms coming online. But you mentioned that yet your organization, your credit union, still has challenges meeting the demand. So do you have any suggestions for things that youth in Canada could do to help an organization like Ramsay or Credit Union better meet the demand of its borrowers? Are there other ways to do that, or do you have any suggestions, things you've thought about?
Yeah, thank you, Mary. I think this project, one reason I have also been attached to it is trying to help other people understand how small amounts can help somebody in another country. Because if you are not exposed to these things, you might think that how much you are holding is too small. I think what Ramsay and can do in terms of collaboration is to sit with you and see in what way and how do you want to help these people. You can profile these people in terms of if we have 10 hundreds of people, we can put them on a project and say these are the projects we want to embark on, and see how lives are grown from day one to the lifestyle of the project, which I don't know yet. But definitely something can be done. Recently, we had 2 people approaching me in the office. A guy, he's a refuse collector. He used wheelbarrow to collect refuse in the community. And now he wants us to buy him a tricycle so that instead of using a wheelbarrow, he can use a tricycle to be able to take this refuse. We have a number of these people coming up. We can decide on a project where we start putting people on each project, 1 member at a time, like service will say, so that everybody can benefit in terms of what we want to offer to the society. I believe definitely something can be done. So we can have a discussion around it and start writing a paper on it to see how it can be done.
Awesome. Thank you so much for answering that question, Kennedy. I know it's at that 1 hour mark and we have tipped over a little bit beyond, and I'm so grateful for everyone's patience and their questions, and I'm sure there'll be more questions as we go along. And we have amazing speakers and resources available to us that we can engage in another conversation if need be. We can set you up with a connection so that you guys can keep the conversation going. There's some great foundation work that's already been done and some legacy work, which is so exciting and so encouraging to hear, because these entrepreneurs are eager to get going and to hear stories about Madame Cecile and the fact that just a small freezer has changed not just her life, but also her community and the market that she is a part of, and being a part of something bigger than herself. So I am so grateful for all of our students who are doing such great work and researching and getting the fundraising started, our partners at Green Learning for creating the resources and the opportunities to get these minds together and build on it, our wonderful guest speakers who joined us today, and I can't wait.
We can't wait to see your videos.
Can't wait, and the comic
books. Your
books.
stories and the comic books. Yeah, yes. It's going to be great.
Please send them our way. Get them working, get them rolling. April 15th is that due date for them to be submitted. April 19th is when we highlight them, and May 4th is when we have a big wrap-up event with the exhibit available at Edmonton Public Big Blue Building downtown. So I want to thank everyone. Mary, do you have any final words?
I wanted to wish Kennedy again a happy National Independence Day. I think maybe we can all...
Yes, unmute everyone. Come join us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I think, Lindsay, it's also good for us because today has been our best connection because nobody is at the office.
Yeah. It's so true. Thank you, Kennedy. I so appreciate the extra time you take.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, Kennedy. Enjoy yourself. And thank you to all the students and teachers. Kennedy, we will look back to you on that conversation, on what you've just talked about, how we can do more to support the work that you're doing. But thank you again to all the students and teachers who are doing this, really making a huge effort to engage in this and to make a difference while they're learning.
Absolutely.
Thanks to our host, Center for Global Education, and to Debbie and Aisling too for your wonderful thoughts and stories.
Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Good evening. Bye.
Say goodbye.
Bye. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us.